What is up, everybody? I'm No Lux Given here with your afternoon snap, and today our featured location is Monster Island, which is not a great Galactus location, though more on that at the end of the video. But for today, I decided to play CEREBRO 9, aka Island Bro. That's what I'm calling it. I threw in all of the best 9 power cards in Marvel Snap, plus armor and Cosmo to protect said 9 power cards from opposing Shang-Chi's, and then also running Shang-Chi myself. It's just way too good a value in Monster Island to pass up on. And to round out the deck, I threw in Iron Man because the hot location description said to play Iron Man, so I figured why not, but it does also have some synergy with Mystique, which I am running because I'm running a CEREBRO list, and you kind of have to play Mystique in a CEREBRO list for it to count. So this is the deck, just kind of a fun one today. That's why I don't have the exact deck list on the screen, but if you want to try it out, there's still some time if you want to have some fun with Monster Island. It's probably not the best one if you are still climbing on your way to infinite, but I'm trying it out here. We're gonna look at a few games. This first one, I lead off with Armor and CEREBRO into cloning vats, and my opponent plays Goose and Mr. Fantastic. From here, the last location is going to be a dream dimension, so I'm just gonna rescue. I know all of this stuff is gonna move over to Asteroid M anyways, but this is kind of cheeky and a little bit of a weird technical thing. I want to dodge the Goose this turn. I want to play my rescue where my opponent doesn't play Goose, so that way I can follow this up with a Warpath next turn, and all of these cards are going to move over to Asteroid M regardless. Now, my opponent doesn't actually wind up playing a Goose on turn 4 here, so we don't really have that much to worry about. Now we just play Warpath into the Dream Dimension because that's where the rescue animation is, and it's very easy to see that for the animation. I know some people have brought that up recently with Shuri, which works the same way. It cares about the actual location that the cards were played to, even if rescue winds up moving over. So we'll play Warpath here. That will also move over to Asteroid M, and then we will have 2 11 power cards in that location. They'll both have 9 power and get pumped up a little bit with CEREBRO. You can see some of the other funky things we are rocking with right now. We've got the She-Hulk in the deck, and then America Chavez is at the top of the curve. And the Thing, I think that is the last 9 power card. I'm only not playing Orca because it pumps itself up more than that if it's by itself, and everything in this deck is so expensive that I figured it might be by itself, but also we're just playing America, so that is just a clean way to, it's just play that as the only 6 cost card. I don't need to play multiple 6 cost cards. The She-Hulk is a little bit weird, but I figured there's ways to play it earlier on the curve. If you skip turn 3, you can play it turn 4, things like that. But yeah, for this one, I am just going to wind up throwing America into the Dream Dimension. I felt like 11 power in there should be able to secure that location. We will still beat a Spectrum in Asteroid M if that's what my opponent plays, because they would have to play the Spectrum into Dream Dimension, so they would only add 6 power to Asteroid M. They would go up to 15. We would lose a little bit of power. Our Warpath is gonna go from 11 down to 5. So we lose 6 power down to 16, but that's still enough to beat Spectrum. So those were the important numbers I was considering, and I felt like with that, with Goose locking down that location, it's gonna be tough for my opponent to swing it in their favor, and America for 11 should be able to win us the Dream Dimension on the final turn. There's a lot of really weird plays with this deck where you have to kind of be willing to give up some of your CEREBRO power or some of your Warpath power in order to grab the win, but there you go. And this was actually my first game with the deck too. In game 2, our third location is going to be Monster Island, so we will actually get to CEREBRO a monster this game. And I'm just gonna play CEREBRO on turn 3 we don't really have any other plays. I made the curve of this deck super high, mostly so I could play a bunch of silly cards like Abomination and Iron Man, but I do think that one of the potential strengths of an Island Bro deck is that you can play cards of any power, really. You don't have to just play Abominations and Iron Mans, because those cards will take over from CEREBRO regardless in the end, which means you've got a lot more flexibility if you wanted to play some cheaper cards on your curve. But we're going full meme. We are playing all of the 9 power cards here, and on turn 4, I'm just going to Shang-Chi my opponent's monster. Pretty straightforward stuff. They do add a lot of power to the board with Hitmonkey, though unfortunately it's actually not enough power that I could Shang-Chi it. We will still be able to take out my opponent's monster, and now we've got an 8-point lead in Monster Island, and that probably just amounts to a win in that location. Now I am going to drop in armor as well as another CEREBRO this turn, but in armor just to make sure my opponent can't Shang-Chi my monster. If you take anything away from this video, it's that Shang-Chiing your opponent's monster and then protecting your own can generally get you a win in that location. You just then have to try to find a way to win one of the other 2 locations. And in this video, we're gonna do it a little bit silly. Basically, I'm already ahead by 11 power. Even if my opponent has a big card like America Chavez, they won't be able to take me in Monster Island. So I don't think they're gonna play there at all. And because of that, I'm gonna get a little bit cheeky this turn and actually lower my power in Monster Island by playing a big card to Atlantis. And I kind of brought this up in the previous game as well. Sometimes you find weird wins by moving around your CEREBRO. So I'm just going to drop Devil Dinosaur into Atlantis, and that has plus 12 power from 6 cards in my hand and then plus 5 from Atlantis. So it is a 20 power card. We are playing 20 bro this game. By the way, I play Devil Dinosaur because if you have exactly 3 cards in your hand, if you kind of just curve out naturally, it is a 9 power card, though Cloning Vats throwing off that math this game. We're just going to drop a huge Devil Dinosaur, though, into Atlantis, taking a small hit in Monster Island. Let's see what my opponent plays there. Rocket Raccoon, so they did have 5 energy left over. They just wind up playing a Mysterio clone. This might have been a bot, to be honest, but either way, a sweet win where Devil Dinosaur gets to take over Atlantis, grab those CEREBRO buffs, and grab us the win. This third game is a bona fide CEREBRO 9 game, no doubts about it. Our third location is again going to be that Monster Island, and I think about just throwing Cosmo into that location, though I've got Shang-Chi in my hand, so I feel like I might just want to run Shang-Chi out into the Monster Island next turn, so I throw Cosmo into Lemuria, and my opponent decides to Storm at that location. So now this is the final turn we can play to that flooded location, and Warpath is actually really, really good against Storm. I know this from playing a bunch of Destroyer back in the day, so I throw Warpath into the stormed location, and I snap, knowing that we are going to be able to lock that up. We already have a power lead there, and getting to add 9 more power is pretty incredible. Though, in this game, that means that I won't definitely play cards to Xandar, because we will want to take advantage of this 9 power. We are just barely winning in the flooded location. So from here, we could play Iron Man plus Mystique into the Monster Island location. That seems pretty sweet. We do still have Shang-Chi as an option, and I would still like to play Armor to play around opposing Shang-Chi's, because that is obviously super scary, but for right now, let's just drop Iron Man and retain priority and see what else we can come up with on the final turn of the game. So my opponent's Cloak was canceled out because of Cosmo. That's also really important to know. Otherwise, my opponent could have moved the monster into the stormed location, but now they're just going to be playing Brood into Xandar and Goose into Xandar. Well, that's fine. I didn't want to play to that location anyways. Let's focus on the Monster Island. Of course, I draw Chavez for the final turn of the game, and I do think that if my opponent is staying in this, they either have Shang-Chi or they have a way to add additional power into the flooded location. And we're just going to make great use of CEREBRO here. I'm going to play CEREBRO plus Mystique. copying the Cerebro rather than trying to copy the Iron Man, because I think this game is going to come down to adding more power over into the flooded location. We've got Iron Man here, we've got a big monster. I think my opponent is just going to leave this location and try to add more power to the other one and not go for like a Shang-Chi play. Let's see if I got it right. Do you guys know yet what my opponent is playing? It wasn't immediately obvious to me, though it makes sense in a second once you see that they have flipped over. Well, they're going to see what we flip over first. So let's jump ahead just a little bit here, and they were quite surprised to see the Cerebro and Mystique, as you have to imagine. That's not a typical line here, but a very, very cool one. My opponent hits me with a Maximus to add a little bit of power to the Monster Island, and then a Silver Surfer, which would have just barely been able to win the flooded location, but instead we grab the win with Cerebro 9. There's some other locations that work well with this deck too, and I was pretty excited to see the Nexus, though I do kind of mess up here. I didn't realize that Cosmo was going to stop my rescue and make it so that I can't Mystique my Iron Man. So a little bit of a blunder, but the main reason that I Cosmoed into the Nexus was so that Scarlet Witch couldn't change the location or something, because I do think that this location could potentially win us the game. We've got Iron Man, and we can add a bunch of power there. Now, my opponent did get to steal one of my cards with White Queen, and when they flip over Devil Dino here, I was thinking, oh, they just stole my Devil Dinosaur, till I realized that border is actually different. So I don't know if they stole my Devil Dinosaur or if they stole my Iron Man, but either way, we've played all of our cards to the Nexus in this game, so I think we might have enough power to take them still. I'm a little bit worried about Arrow, but I'm gonna go for it. And we will see that my opponent actually does not steal my Devil Dinosaur. They stole my Iron Man, so they are gonna have a lot of power in the Nexus. But my Devil Dinosaur is actually bigger than theirs. Cosmo stops the Sentinel, and we win the game with 44 power at every location. I brought up that Monster Island is not a great Galactus location, and here is a great example why. I can't play Galactus in Monster Island, the big house, and if I play Galactus in the Vault, well, then the game is over and I probably lose. So no great Galactus locations for us this game, though there is still kind of a cheeky way to make use of the Monster Island with Galactus, and that is to hopefully get Shang-Chi'd before you play Galactus. And the way to force that out, of course, is by playing Dr. Octopus to grab your opponent's Shang-Chi for you. So that will clear up this location, allowing me to drop a Galactus there. But my opponent also has Professor X to lock the location down, but they also have Enchantress to unlock the location and allow me to drop Galactus into the Monster Island. By the way, should have played Kang this turn, so that way I could have drawn one card deeper into my deck, potentially found Null, though Galactus plus death and like the threat of Shang-Chi and stuff like that here will still be enough that we can snap and my opponent is going to retreat. That's going to be it for me today, guys. Thank you very much for watching. I'm No Luck's Given. Peace.